There's a voice you hear every single day, in quiet moments, in crowded rooms, when you wake up, when you go to sleep. It's the voice that narrates your life, judges your choices, questions your worth, and sometimes quietly saves you. That voice is you. Most people spend their lives trying to speak kindly to others, but rarely stop to notice how brutally they speak to themselves. We carry on entire conversations in our minds, and those conversations shape our reality. They decide what we believe we deserve, how far we'll go, and whether we'll ever feel at peace with who we are. This book isn't about positive thinking. It's not about pretending everything's fine when it isn't. It's about something deeper, learning to talk to yourself in a way that's honest, compassionate, and empowering. Because the way you speak to yourself becomes the way you experience your life. Every word you say internally either builds you or breaks you. Every thought becomes a seed of confidence or of doubt. And when you begin to speak to yourself differently, your entire world starts to change. In the next chapters, you'll discover 9 ways to talk to yourself that will reshape your mindset, strengthen your self-trust, and help you face life with more calm and confidence. You don't have to wait for anyone to believe in you. It starts right here, with the words you choose to say to yourself. 1. I set learning, not failing. Stop calling every mistake a failure. You're not failing, you're learning. It's one of the simplest but most powerful mindset shifts you can make. Yet for most of us, it's also one of the hardest. We're taught from an early age that success means getting everything right, that mistakes are proof we're not good enough, that if we fall short, we've somehow proven our weakness. But the truth is, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every person who's achieved something meaningful has walked through mistakes, setbacks, and uncertainty. What separates those who grow from those who give up isn't talent or luck. It's how they talk to themselves when things go wrong. When something doesn't work out, your mind will try to convince you that you've failed, that you've wasted your time, that you should have known better. That voice can be cruel, and it often sounds like the truth. But in reality, it's only a reflection of your fear, the fear of not being enough, of being judged, of starting over. The moment you replace the thought "I failed" with "I learned," you take back your power. You stop seeing the event as an ending and start viewing it as a lesson, a stepping stone. Think about it. The first time you learned to walk, you fell hundreds of times. Nobody called that failure, it was practice. But somewhere along the way, we forgot that falling is part of learning. We started expecting perfection from ourselves the first time we try something. And when we don't get it right, we label ourselves as incapable. Imagine if a child stopped walking forever after falling once. That's how most adults treat their dreams. When you say "I'm learning," you give yourself permission to be in progress. You stop demanding perfection from yourself in every moment. Learning is messy. It means trying, adjusting, and trying again. It means admitting you don't know everything. And that's okay. The best learners aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who stay curious, open, and willing to be wrong. Here's something most people overlook. Every failure gives you data. It tells you what doesn't work, what to avoid, what to improve. Without that information, you'd stay stuck doing the same thing, expecting different results. So the next time something goes wrong, instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" try asking, "What is this trying to show me?" The first question drains your energy, the second one expands it. The first keeps you trapped in shame. The second moves you forward with purpose. Consider how you speak to yourself after a mistake. Do you say, "I can't believe I did that. I always mess up. I should have known better"? Those phrases create a loop of guilt that keeps you from growing. But if you shift your language to "This didn't go how I hoped, but now I understand why," or "I'm learning what works for me," you create a loop of growth. That's how resilience is built, not through avoiding mistakes, but through transforming how you interpret them. Let's take an example. Imagine you start a small project, maybe a new business idea, a creative piece, or even a personal goal like eating healthier. You try your best, but it doesn't go as planned. You lose motivation, make inconsistent progress, or face unexpected obstacles. Now, in that moment, you have 2 options. You can say, I failed, I'm not cut out for this. Or you can say, I learned something about myself, about what I need to adjust. The first response closes the door. The second opens it wider. I'm learning, not failing, doesn't mean ignoring mistakes or pretending everything's fine. It means you take accountability without cruelty. You can say, yes, I made an error, but also, that error doesn't define me. It's about separating your actions from your identity. You may have done something wrong, but that doesn't make you wrong. You're a human being, not a finished product. Every day you're learning, evolving, becoming a little more aware. When you reframe failure as learning, something amazing happens. Your fear of trying fades. You start taking more chances, experimenting, exploring new possibilities. Because failure no longer feels fatal, it feels educational. You realize that even if things don't go perfectly, you'll walk away with insight, not shame. That's freedom. That's what allows people to create, lead, love, and live with courage. Most people who stop chasing their goals aren't stopped by failure itself. They're stopped by the story they tell themselves about failure. They decide it means, I'm not good enough. I don't belong. It's too late for me. But none of those stories are facts. They're interpretations. You have the power to rewrite them. You can say instead, this didn't work, but I can learn and try differently. This hurt, but it's showing me where to heal. This wasn't the right door, but maybe it's leading me to the right one. Learning to talk to yourself like this takes practice. At first, it might feel unnatural, especially if you've been self-critical for a long time. But each time you choose the learning perspective, you weaken the old patterns. You start recognizing that growth rarely feels good in the moment. It often feels uncomfortable, uncertain, even painful. But that's how transformation always begins, through discomfort that teaches you to adapt. You're not supposed to know everything. You're not supposed to get it right the first time. Life isn't an exam with one correct answer. It's a process of discovering, refining, and learning. When you internalize that, you stop expecting perfection from yourself or others. You start to see beauty in imperfection, in effort, in persistence, in showing up again after falling. So the next time something doesn't go as planned, when you miss an opportunity, make a mistake, or feel like you messed up, pause, breathe, then remind yourself, I am learning, not failing. Because that's what you're really doing. You're gathering information, growing stronger, becoming wiser. Failure only exists when you stop learning. But as long as you keep showing up, reflecting and adjusting, you're still moving forward. That's the truth. Most people forget. Growth doesn't happen in the moments of perfection. It happens in the moments you stumble, reflect, and choose to rise again. So don't fear your mistakes. Learn from them. Because every time you do, you're not losing, you're becoming. 2. I don't chase, I attract. Most people spend their lives chasing love, chasing approval, chasing success, chasing moments that prove they're worthy. But the truth is, the more you chase something, the more it seems to move away from you. You start to live in a constant state of grasping, of wanting, hoping, and doubting. And in that state, even when something good does come your way, you're too anxious or exhausted to truly receive it. I don't chase, I attract is not about sitting still and waiting for life to hand you everything you want. It's about learning to align your energy, your mindset, and your actions so that the right things naturally move toward you. It's about shifting from desperation to confidence, from force to flow. When you chase, what you're really communicating to the world and to yourself is that you don't have enough. You're saying, I need this thing to complete me, or I won't be happy until I get it. That energy pushes things away because it comes from fear, the fear of not having, of not being, of not belonging. But when you decide to attract, you change your inner state. You start to trust that what's meant for you doesn't need to be forced. You act from a place of peace, not panic. Attracting isn't passive, it's magnetic. Think of it this way, you can't force a flower to bloom by pulling its petals open. You have to give it the right soil, the right light, and the right care, and it blooms on its own. The same is true for your goals, your relationships, and your growth. You don't have to chase them. You have to become the kind of person they naturally gravitate toward. This mindset invites you to focus less on running after outcomes and more on building your foundation. Instead of asking, "How do I get this?" ask, "Who do I need to become so this kind of thing finds me?" When you improve yourself, your mindset, your habits, your boundaries, the world starts responding differently. People treat you the way you treat yourself. Opportunities reflect what you believe you're worth. When you say, "I don't chase, I attract," you begin to release the tension of forcing life to happen on your timeline. You start trusting that the right timing exists, and that you're not missing anything meant for you. It doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you stop acting from fear. You still work, you still try, but your energy shifts. You do it from a place of peace instead of panic, from assurance instead of scarcity. Let's say you're looking for love. When you chase love, you bend yourself to fit into someone else's expectations. You overthink, overgive, and overcompromise. You say yes when you mean no. You hold on when you should let go. But when you attract love, you stop begging to be chosen. You start choosing yourself. You work on being someone who radiates self-respect and authenticity. And when you do that, you begin to notice the people who match that energy start to appear, and those who don't simply fall away. The same applies to career and success. When you chase success, you're always working from lack. "I'm not enough yet." You compare yourself to others. You push harder, but feel emptier. But when you attract success, you operate differently. You focus on your craft, your integrity, your passion. You put your energy into growth, not proving. And in time, the right recognition and opportunities flow naturally toward that energy. It's not magic, it's mindset. It's emotional alignment. It's understanding that the world reflects your internal state. If you radiate desperation, you attract situations that mirror it. Unstable jobs, uncertain people, inconsistent outcomes. If you radiate calm confidence and gratitude, you attract experiences that reinforce it. Trust, clarity, and stability. When you start practicing this, you'll notice that not everything or everyone you want will stay. And that's part of the process. "I don't chase, I attract" also means you're willing to let go of what's not aligned with you. Attraction requires space. You can't receive what's meant for you if your hands are full of what isn't. Sometimes that means releasing old versions of yourself, outdated goals, or people who no longer match your energy. Letting go isn't losing, it's making room. The hardest part of attraction is patience. We live in a culture that glorifies the chase, the hustle, the pursuit, the constant movement. But the truth is, you can't rush alignment. You can't force timing. You can only prepare yourself for it. The better you become at being still, grounded, and intentional, the faster the right things find you, because your calm becomes your magnet. It takes courage to stop chasing. It feels unnatural at first, because so much of our self-worth has been tied to effort, to proving and earning. But when you pause and say, "I trust that what's meant for me won't miss me," something shifts. You stop acting out of fear and start acting from faith. You start enjoying your own company, your own growth, your own process. That peace itself becomes your power. When you begin to attract instead of chase, you learn to move with clarity. You know what you want, but you're not frantic about it. You take inspired action, not desperate action. You set goals, but you don't cling to them. You plant seeds and trust they'll grow. You understand that rejection isn't failure, it's redirection. That delay isn't denial, it's preparation. So say it again. "I don't chase, I attract." Say it until your mind believes it. Say it until your energy feels it. You're not running after what you want anymore, you're becoming what you want. You're aligning your habits, your emotions, your environment with the version of yourself who already has it. The truth is, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. If you want peace, be peaceful. If you want respect, live with self-respect. If you want love, love yourself enough not to settle for less. The outer world always mirrors the inner one. When you finally understand this, life stops feeling like a race. You begin to move slower, but with more intention. You realize you don't need to fight for what's meant for you. You just need to stay open, steady, and genuine. Because when you stop chasing things that drain you, you create space for what truly fulfills you. And that's when everything starts changing. Not because you ran harder, but because you stopped running altogether and allowed the right things to catch up to you. 3. So am I doing better than I think? Most of us are far too hard on ourselves. We wake up feeling behind, we go to bed feeling like we didn't do enough, and somewhere in between, we carry this invisible pressure to constantly perform, prove, and perfect. But here's the truth. You're doing better than you think. You really are. You just don't give yourself credit for it. We live in a world that rewards visible achievement, the finished project, the big promotion, the public success. But the quiet victories often go unnoticed. Getting out of bed when you didn't feel like it, showing up even when you were tired, being kind when it would have been easier to be cold. Those moments matter more than you realize. They're the invisible building blocks of a strong, resilient life. When you tell yourself, "I'm doing better than I think," you're not lying. You're giving your mind a more accurate picture. Because your brain is wired to focus on what's missing. It's built to notice problems, not progress. That's how it protects you, by scanning for threats, errors, and imperfections. But what keeps you safe isn't always what helps you grow. If you never pause to recognize how far you've come, you start believing you haven't moved at all. Think about where you were a year ago, or even 6 months ago. The things that used to break you now barely shake you. The problems that once felt impossible, you now handle with quiet strength. That's progress, even if it doesn't show up as fireworks. Growth rarely announces itself. It unfolds quietly in the background, one small step at a time. But we're not taught to measure life that way. We're taught to measure it by milestones, by how much we've achieved compared to others, by how busy we look. So we miss the everyday evidence that we're evolving. We dismiss the small wins because they don't feel big enough. We tell ourselves, "I should be further along by now," without realizing how much ground we've already covered. The phrase, "I'm doing better than I think," is a reminder to slow down and take inventory of your growth. Not just the visible kind, the emotional kind, the mental kind, the kind that doesn't show up in photos or metrics. Maybe you've learned to set a boundary you once couldn't. Maybe you've healed from something you thought would break you forever. Maybe you've found peace in a place that used to cause you pain. These are not small things. They're the quiet revolutions that change your life from the inside out. When you're constantly striving for the next thing, it's easy to overlook what you've already achieved. You might be holding yourself to an impossible standard, comparing your real life to someone else's highlight reel, but comparison always distorts the truth. You see their results, not their journey. You see their success, not their sleepless nights. Meanwhile, you live inside your own effort, feeling every doubt, every delay, every imperfection. And because you feel it so deeply, you assume you're doing worse than you are. The truth is, you're probably doing far better than you realize. You've kept going despite uncertainty. You've shown up when no one was watching. You've faced days you didn't think you'd survive. And you're still here, still learning, still trying, still growing. That counts. That matters. Try saying it right now. I said doing better than I think. Notice what happens inside you when you say it. You might feel resistance, like your mind wants to argue back. No, I'm not. That's just your self-criticism trying to stay in control. But if you say it again, softer this time, it begins to sink in. You start to feel a little lighter, a little more grounded, because deep down, part of you knows it's true. This simple sentence shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's working. It reminds you that even small progress is still progress. Maybe you're not exactly where you want to be yet, but that doesn't mean you're not on your way. Every chapter of growth looks messy in the middle. You don't see the full picture until much later. Sometimes we expect our progress to feel like victory, clear, satisfying, final. But often, it feels like exhaustion. It feels like uncertainty, frustration, repetition. You may think you're stuck, when really, you're just deep in the process of becoming. That's what this phrase is about. Giving yourself grace in the process. Think about how you talk to a friend who's struggling. You'd probably say, "You're doing better than you think. You've come so far." You'd remind them of their strength, their courage, their persistence. But when it comes to yourself, you forget to offer that same kindness. You minimize your effort, criticize your flaws, and move the goalpost every time you make progress. "I'm doing better than I think" is how you stop that cycle. It's how you start giving yourself the encouragement you deserve. Here's something important. Progress doesn't always look like forward motion. Sometimes it looks like slowing down. Sometimes it looks like resting. Sometimes it looks like walking away from something that once defined you. Those moments can feel like losing, but often they're exactly what you need to heal. When you tell yourself you're doing better than you think, you remind yourself that rest is not regression, it's recovery. You're not supposed to have everything figured out. You're supposed to keep evolving. You're supposed to keep trying, failing, and learning. And if you're doing that, if you're still showing up for your own life despite the uncertainty, then yes, you are doing better than you think. Take a moment and reflect on this. What would happen if you stopped measuring your worth by how fast you're moving and started measuring it by how consistently you keep going? What if you stopped asking, "Am I there yet?" and started asking, "Am I growing?" Because growth is never instant. It's gradual, invisible, and often uncomfortable, but it's happening right now, even if you can't see it. So today, pause, breathe. Look at how far you've come. Look at how much you've learned, how much you've endured, how many times you've rebuilt yourself quietly, without recognition. That's not failure. That's strength. That's resilience. That's evidence that you're doing better than you think. And maybe you don't need to fix your entire life right now. Maybe you just need to start noticing the parts that are already working. Because once you start seeing yourself clearly, not through the lens of lack, but through the truth of effort and endurance, you'll realize that you've been making progress all along. You are doing better than you think, not because everything is perfect, but because you're still trying when it would be easier to give up. And that's what matters most. 4. It's okay to rest. We live in a world that worships productivity. You're told to keep going, keep grinding, keep hustling, as if stopping for a moment means falling behind. We've been conditioned to measure our worth by how much we can produce, achieve, or check off in a day. Rest, in that kind of culture, starts to feel like weakness. We say things like, "I'll rest when I'm done," or "I don't have time to slow down," forgetting that we're not machines, we're human beings. But here's the truth. It's okay to rest. In fact, it's necessary. Your body needs it. Your mind needs it. Your spirit needs it. Rest isn't the opposite of growth. It's part of it. Every living thing in nature knows this. The seasons change, trees shed their leaves, the earth pauses, animals hibernate. Everything living has a rhythm of work and recovery. You are no different. Somewhere along the way, we started confusing exhaustion with dedication. We began to believe that burnout is proof of effort, but being constantly busy doesn't always mean you're making progress. Sometimes it means you're running in circles, trying to outrun your own fatigue. You can't build a meaningful life on an empty battery. You can't think clearly when your mind is constantly tired. When you talk to yourself with the words, "It's okay to rest," you're giving yourself permission to be human again. You're reminding yourself that you don't have to earn the right to pause. You don't need to justify taking a break. Rest isn't something you get as a reward. It's something you deserve simply because you're alive. Rest doesn't always mean sleeping or doing nothing. Sometimes it means doing something gentle, reading, walking, breathing, being still. Sometimes it means stepping away from people or places that drain your energy. Sometimes it's closing your laptop early, saying no to an extra commitment, or simply allowing silence to exist. Rest can take many forms, but at its core, it's about creating space for your mind and body to reset. Here's what happens when you never rest. Your creativity fades, your patience shortens, your joy disappears. You start reacting instead of responding. You feel scattered, anxious, easily irritated. You lose connection to your purpose. That's your body and mind sending a message. Not of failure, but of need. They're saying, "I need time to recover. I need time to breathe." But most of us ignore those signals. We drink another coffee. We stay up another hour. We convince ourselves we can push through. And maybe we can for a while. But eventually, the body keeps score. The stress, the fatigue, the pressure. It builds up until it spills over into burnout, illness, or emotional collapse. Saying, "It's okay to rest," is how you stop that cycle. It's how you start showing yourself the same care you give everyone else. You would never tell someone you love that they're lazy for needing a break. You'd tell them to take care of themselves, to breathe, to recharge. So why not give yourself that same grace? Rest also teaches you trust. When you rest, you're choosing to believe that the world will not fall apart without you. That progress can continue even when you're not constantly controlling it. That you don't need to be in motion every second to have value. Rest is an act of faith. Faith that you are enough even when you're still. Many people fear rest because they associate it with laziness. But there's a big difference between resting and quitting. Rest is what allows you to keep going. It's the pause between notes that makes the music. Without rest, even your best efforts lose meaning. The point of working hard isn't to burn out. It's to create space for joy, peace, and fulfillment. When you allow yourself to rest, you reconnect with clarity. You begin to see what truly matters and what's just noise. You stop chasing every task and start moving with intention. The more rested you are, the more focused and effective you become. Rest sharpens your thinking, strengthens your patience, and renews your energy. Think of your phone. You wouldn't expect it to run all day without charging. When the battery runs low, you plug it in because you understand it won't function otherwise. You don't call your phone lazy for needing to recharge. So why do you treat yourself differently? You need to recharge too. You are allowed to pause, to slow down, to fill yourself back up before giving more to the world. Sometimes rest also means emotional rest, taking a break from constantly analyzing, fixing, or worrying. It's giving your mind permission to not have all the answers right now. It's telling yourself, "I don't need to solve everything today." When you give yourself that permission, you create room for your intuition to breathe. You'll often find that clarity comes in the quiet moments, not in the chaos of overthinking. It's also okay to rest from certain people or expectations. You're not obligated to be available for everyone all the time. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's self-respect. Resting from constant emotional labor is how you restore balance within yourself. If you've been pushing yourself too hard, trying to prove you're strong, capable, or worthy, remember this: rest doesn't take away your strength, it sustains it. Even the strongest people need to stop and breathe. Strength isn't just endurance, it's knowing when to step back so you can come back stronger. So the next time your mind whispers, "I can't stop now," try answering back with, "It's okay to rest." Let those words soften the tension in your shoulders. Let them remind you that life is not a race, it's a rhythm. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to recover. You are allowed to care for yourself without guilt. Rest isn't wasted time. It's the space where your body heals, your mind resets, and your heart realigns. It's where inspiration lives, where clarity grows, where energy returns. The most productive thing you can sometimes do is stop. Because once you've rested, everything you touch afterwards will be stronger, clearer, and more alive. So breathe, sit still, be gentle with yourself. The world will still be there when you wake up, and you'll face it better when you're restored. It's not weakness to rest, it's wisdom. It's how you keep going, not just through life, but with life. 5. I deserve good things. Somewhere along the way, many of us learn to believe that good things are for other people. We watch others find love, success, peace, or joy. And instead of celebrating, a quiet voice inside whispers, "That's not for me." Maybe it came from growing up around scarcity, criticism, or disappointment. Maybe you were taught that wanting too much makes you greedy, or that you have to earn every bit of happiness you receive. Over time, that message turns into an invisible wall, one that keeps you from truly letting good things in. I deserve good things is not arrogance, it's self-acceptance. It's the decision to finally stop rejecting the kindness, opportunities, and love that try to reach you. It's choosing to believe that your worth is not conditional, not based on achievements, approval, or perfection. You deserve good things simply because you exist. When you don't believe you deserve good things, You unknowingly push them away. You sabotage relationships because deep down you expect them to end. You hesitate to chase opportunities because you fear you'll mess them up. You downplay your successes because you think they're temporary or undeserved. And slowly, your life starts to shrink to match your self-image. But when you start telling yourself, "I deserve good things," everything begins to expand. Your energy changes. You start to show up differently. Calmer, more open, more confident. You stop trying to prove your worth and start living from it. The truth is, believing you deserve good things doesn't mean you think life owes you anything. It means you finally understand that you're allowed to receive, without guilt, without apology. It means you stop negotiating with your own joy. You stop saying, "I'll be happy when," and start saying, "I'm worthy now." Think of how you treat the people you love. You want them to be safe, happy, and fulfilled. You don't ask them to prove they're worthy of kindness or success. You just want it for them because you see their value. That's how you need to start seeing yourself. Because until you do, every good thing that comes your way will feel temporary or suspicious. When you say "I deserve good things," you're also challenging the part of you that believes pain is your default state. Many people have lived through so much struggle that peace feels uncomfortable. When life gets calm, they start waiting for the next bad thing, because chaos feels familiar, and safety feels strange. But healing means learning that it's okay to be okay. You don't have to live in survival mode forever. You don't have to earn rest, or love, or joy. You can simply allow it. Deserving good things is not about entitlement. It's about allowing balance. It's understanding that just as you've experienced heartbreak, loss, or disappointment, you are equally meant to experience beauty, ease, and joy. You are not built to suffer endlessly. You are meant to grow, to love, to rest, and to receive. Let's be honest, for many people, accepting good things is harder than enduring bad ones. When you've spent years believing you have to struggle to prove your worth, peace feels foreign. You might push away compliments, downplay achievements, or question why good people like you. You might even self-sabotage when things go well, missing deadlines, picking fights, or walking away too soon, because deep down you're scared it's all temporary. But here's the truth. You don't need to punish yourself for the times you've fallen. You don't need to delay your joy until you've earned it. The fact that you've made it through what you have means you are already worthy of the good that's coming. Every challenge you've faced has refined you, strengthened you, and prepared you to receive. Saying, "I deserve good things," is also about boundaries. When you truly believe in your worth, you stop accepting crumbs from people who can't meet you where you are. You stop saying yes to what drains you just to feel useful. You stop overgiving in the hope that someone will finally see your value. Instead, you begin to protect your peace, your time, and your energy. That's not selfish. That's what self-worth looks like in action. You start making choices that reflect your value. You apply for the opportunity you once thought was too big. You speak up for yourself. You stop chasing people who don't care and start nurturing the ones who do. You create a life that feels good on the inside, not one that just looks good on the outside. That's what happens when you stop chasing validation and start embodying self-belief. It's okay if this mindset feels uncomfortable at first. If you've spent years believing you're not enough, saying "I deserve good things" might feel like a lie. That's normal. Say it anyway. Say it until your heart starts to catch up to your words. The mind learns through repetition. The more you remind yourself of your worth, the more your brain begins to believe it. Start small. Let yourself enjoy something simple without guilt. A quiet moment, a good meal, a compliment. Don't rush to dismiss it or minimize it. Just receive it. Practice letting good things land without immediately wondering when they'll disappear. Because the truth is, what you believe you deserve sets the limit for what you allow into your life. When you start believing you're worthy of good things, you unconsciously start creating a life that matches that belief. You begin to attract people and opportunities that reflect your new energy, relationships built on respect, work that fulfills you, peace that feels natural instead of rare. And when the old voice tries to come back, the one that says, "You deserve this," you can answer gently, Maybe that used to be true. But I've grown, I've learned, I've healed, and now I do. You deserve good things. You deserve to wake up without dread, to love and be loved deeply, to feel proud of who you are. You deserve to laugh without guilt, to rest without shame, to exist without constantly earning your place in the world. The good things you seek aren't rewards for perfection. They're your birthright as someone who's learning, growing, and showing up for life. So say it again, and mean it this time. I deserve good things. Not someday. Not when you've achieved more, healed more, or become more. But now, exactly as you are. 6. I can handle this. At some point in your life, you've probably faced something you weren't sure you could survive. A loss, a change, a heartbreak, a challenge that left you wondering if you had anything left to give. And yet, you're here. You've made it through days you didn't think you'd get through. You've handled more than you give yourself credit for. That's proof, real, living proof, that you can handle this too. When you tell yourself, I can handle this, you're not denying that life is hard. You're acknowledging that you are strong. You're reminding yourself that fear, pain, or uncertainty don't define your limits. They test them. And you always come out stronger on the other side. Life doesn't get easier just because you wish it would. Challenges come whether you feel ready or not. But readiness isn't about having no fear. It's about trusting yourself enough to face the fear anyway. That's what I can handle this really means. It's a declaration of faith, not in the world, not in luck, but in yourself. Fear has a loud voice. It says, what if this ruins everything? What if I can't do it? What if I fail? And when you listen to that voice long enough, you start to believe it. You shrink, you hesitate, you stop showing up for your own life. But the moment you say, I can handle this, you quiet that voice. You create a sense of calm in the chaos. You remind yourself that you've handled worse before, and you'll do it again. You've probably forgotten how many challenges you've already overcome. Think about it. How many times did you think, I can't do this, only to look back later and realize you already did? How many moments of panic eventually turned into strength? You might not see your resilience clearly because it's become your normal. You've been surviving so long that you don't realize it's actually courage in action. When you say, I can handle this, you anchor yourself in the present. Most anxiety comes from imagining what might happen, your mind creating stories about the future you can't control. But right here, in this moment, you're handling it. You're breathing, you're coping, you're showing up. That's all that matters. The present moment is always manageable. It's only when you jump into the what-ifs that it feels overwhelming. Telling yourself, I can handle this, is also a way of setting boundaries with your fear. It's you saying, yes, I feel scared, but fear doesn't get to drive the car. Courage doesn't mean you stop being afraid. It means you move forward even when you are. It's not pretending things are easy, it's acknowledging they're hard and doing them anyway. This phrase works like a mental reset. When everything feels too heavy, saying it grounds you. It brings your attention back to your inner stability, the part of you that has survived every worst day you've had so far. You might not have all the answers. You might still be figuring it out. But you are capable of figuring it out. You've done it before, and you'll keep doing it. It's also important to understand that handling something doesn't always mean fixing it. Sometimes it means staying calm in the middle of it. Sometimes it means letting go of control. Sometimes it means asking for help. Strength isn't always loud or visible. Often it's the quiet decision to keep going, to stay soft, to keep your heart open even when life feels harsh. When you start trusting that you can handle things, you stop trying to control everything. You stop obsessing over outcomes or demanding certainty. Instead, you start focusing on what's within your control. Your effort, your attitude, your response. That shift is everything. You can't always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose how you respond. That's where your real power lives. Think about how often you've underestimated yourself. You've probably been through seasons that felt impossible. Heartbreaks that shattered you, disappointments that broke your spirit, moments where everything seemed to fall apart, but you survived them. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not gracefully, but you did. And that means the strength you need is already within you. You don't have to find it, you just have to remember it. Telling yourself, "I can handle this," doesn't mean pretending to be invincible. It's not about denying pain or pretending to be okay when you're not. It's about self-compassion, reminding yourself that even in the middle of uncertainty, you're capable of adapting, learning, and healing. It's acknowledging your emotions without letting them define your outcome. You might be scared right now, you might feel unsure or unsteady, but fear and capability can coexist. You can be scared and strong, you can be uncertain and brave, you can be tired and resilient. Those truths can live side by side. That's what real courage looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to keep moving despite it. Sometimes, when life gets too heavy, your mind starts to spiral. What if I can't handle this? What if this is too much? That's when you stop and breathe. You take a deep inhale and tell yourself, "I've handled everything before this moment, and I can handle this too." Say it until you believe it. Say it until your body remembers it. Because it's true, you've already proven it. You are not fragile. You are not helpless. You are not broken beyond repair. You are a survivor of every single moment you thought would break you. You've faced pain, fear, and loss, and you're still standing. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's evidence that you can keep going. So whatever you're facing right now, no matter how uncertain or overwhelming it feels, know this: you can handle it. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to see the entire path. You just need to take one step at a time, trusting that you'll figure it out as you go, because you will. You always have. Say it softly if you need to. Say it out loud if you must. Say it until your breath steadies and your shoulders drop. I can handle this. You don't need to have everything under control. You just need to believe in yourself enough to keep showing up. That belief, that quiet inner trust, is stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, and stronger than anything standing in your way. You've handled life before, and you'll handle this too, because that's who you are. Capable, adaptable, and stronger than you think. 7. I am not my thoughts. Your mind never stops talking. It comments, compares, worries, and judges, often before you even notice. It tells stories about the past, predicts disasters about the future, and constantly tries to label everything around you as good or bad, safe or dangerous. Most of the time, we're so caught up in this noise that we start to believe it's us. We think, if I feel anxious, I must be broken. If I have a dark thought, it must mean something's wrong with me. But here's the truth. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. They're not absolute truths. They're passing clouds in the sky of your mind, sometimes light and pleasant, sometimes dark and heavy, but always moving. What stays constant is not the thought, but the awareness watching it. That awareness, your ability to observe what's happening inside without becoming it, is you. That's where your power lives. The problem is, we're not taught to separate ourselves from our thoughts. From an early age, we're told things like, "You are what you think." And while there's some truth to the idea that thoughts shape reality, it's also incomplete. You're not your thoughts, you're the one who notices them. That distinction changes everything. Imagine you're sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. Each leaf represents a thought. Some are positive, some negative, some random, some repetitive. When you identify with your thoughts, it's like jumping into the river and trying to grab the leaves. You get caught in the current and swept away. But when you remember you're just the observer, you stay on the bank. You can see each thought drift past without being pulled under. That's what mindfulness really is. Not emptying your mind, but realizing you're not the noise inside it, you're the awareness behind it. Once you understand that, your relationship with your inner world changes completely. You stop fighting every thought, and you start responding to them with calm curiosity. Let's say a thought appears, "I'm not good enough." Most of us hear that and believe it instantly. We feel the shame, the anxiety, the pressure that comes with it. But if you pause and notice it, there's a thought that says, "I'm not good enough." Something shifts. You create space between you and the thought. It's no longer an absolute truth. It's just one of many passing stories your mind is telling. That space is freedom. Because here's the thing. Your mind's job is to think. Just like your heart beats and your lungs breathe, your mind produces thoughts. Some are useful, some aren't. You can't stop thoughts from coming, but you can choose how to relate to them. You don't have to wrestle every single one into silence. You just have to recognize that they're not always telling you the truth. When you start observing your thoughts instead of becoming them, you take back control of your emotional state. You begin to see patterns, how your mind always jumps to the worst-case scenario, or how it clings to old memories that hurt. With awareness, you can say, I know this voice. It's my fear talking, or this is my past trying to protect me. You don't have to let those thoughts decide who you are anymore. There's a famous saying, don't believe everything you think. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most important truths for mental peace. Your thoughts can be influenced by tiredness, stress, trauma, or habit. They can be shaped by other people's voices, parents, teachers, society, that live rent-free in your head. Some of your most painful thoughts aren't even yours. They were planted there years ago, and you've been carrying them ever since. But you get to challenge them. You get to question their validity. When your mind says, you're a failure, you can ask, is that really true, or is that fear speaking? When it says, I'll never be happy, you can ask, have I felt joy before? These small acts of questioning weaken the power of negative thoughts. Over time, you begin to realize that thoughts only have the power you give them. A thought can appear harsh, scary, or painful, but if you don't feed it attention, it fades. It's like a flame without oxygen. Eventually it goes out. This doesn't mean you should ignore your thoughts completely. Some carry important messages. They alert you to danger, help you solve problems, or express your creativity. But many are just mental noise. The key is learning to tell the difference. The voice of truth feels calm, steady, and grounded. The voice of fear feels urgent, critical, and heavy. One helps you grow, the other keeps you stuck. When you say, I am not my thoughts, you're reclaiming that inner stillness that exists beneath the mental chatter. You're saying, I don't have to believe every story my mind tells me. You start to treat your thoughts like suggestions, not commands. You become kinder to yourself because you understand that the mean, anxious, or doubtful voice isn't the real you, it's just a visitor. This is especially powerful during moments of anxiety, when your mind spirals into what-if scenarios. What if I fail? What if they leave me? What if everything falls apart? Try pausing and saying, these are just thoughts. I don't have to believe them. Feel how your body softens when you separate from the fear. You stop being trapped inside the story and return to the safety of the present moment. The more you practice this, the stronger your awareness becomes. Over time, you'll find that thoughts no longer control you. They pass through like weather. You may still have negative thoughts, but they'll lose their grip. You'll start responding to life with clarity instead of reaction. Remember, your thoughts can influence how you feel, but they don't define who you are. You're not your anger, your anxiety, your worry, or your doubt. You're the observer who can see them rise and fall. You're the stillness underneath the storm. So the next time your mind starts filling with noise, take a breath. Remind yourself, this is just my mind doing what minds do. Let the thoughts come and go. Watch them without judgment. You don't have to fix or fight them. Just let them drift away like clouds in a vast open sky. Because who you truly are, that calm, grounded awareness watching all of it, is much bigger than anything you could ever think. 8. I choose peace over drama. Peace isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you choose, over and over again. It's not a gift life hands you when everything is perfect. It's a decision you make in the middle of imperfection. I choose peace over drama is more than just a phrase. It's a quiet, steady way of living that protects your energy, preserves your sanity, and helps you stay grounded when the world around you feels chaotic. Drama, in this sense, doesn't only mean arguments or conflicts with other people. It can also mean the constant noise in your head, overthinking, worrying, replaying old conversations, or assuming the worst. It's the emotional turbulence that comes from reacting instead of responding, from clinging instead of releasing. Choosing peace means deciding not to be dragged into that storm every time it appears. You can't control everything that happens to you. People will disappoint you. Situations will frustrate you. Life will test you in ways that feel unfair. But you can control how much of your inner world those things get to disturb. Choosing peace means saying, I can't always control what happens, but I can control what I carry. It's easy to get addicted to drama without realizing it. We live in a culture that glorifies reaction. We scroll through outrage, feed on gossip, and measure our value by how loudly we respond to everything. There's this unspoken pressure to have an opinion, to win every argument, to always be right. But here's the truth. Being right doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it just keeps you stuck in chaos. Choosing peace means knowing when to stay silent. It's realizing that not every comment deserves a reply, not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected, and not every fight is worth your time. Silence doesn't mean surrender, it means maturity. It's understanding that you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. When you choose peace, you stop letting other people's emotions dictate your own. You stop matching someone's anger with more anger, or their chaos with your anxiety. Instead, you create space between their energy and yours. You start asking, is this worth losing my calm over? Most of the time, the answer is no. Peace also means forgiving, not because people always deserve it, but because you deserve to be free. Holding on to anger or resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Forgiveness doesn't excuse what happened. It simply releases the power it has over you. When you let go, you make room for healing. You stop letting the past steal your present. But choosing peace isn't always easy. Sometimes it means walking away from people you care about because their chaos is consuming your calm. Sometimes it means setting boundaries that others don't understand. Sometimes it means being misunderstood, even judged, because you refuse to engage in negativity. Peace costs you something, but drama costs you more. And here's the secret. Peace doesn't mean life becomes quiet or simple. It means that you become steady. You stop reacting to every little thing. You start trusting that not everything deserves your energy. You find stillness inside yourself, even when things outside you are uncertain. That's real peace. Not the absence of noise, but the ability to stay centered within it. Choosing peace also means releasing the need to fix or control everything. You stop trying to make people see your side, change their ways, or understand your heart. You start realizing that your peace doesn't depend on their behavior. It depends on your boundaries. You can wish someone well and still walk away. You can love someone and still protect your energy. When you say, I choose peace over drama, you're giving yourself permission to prioritize your emotional well-being. You're saying, my calm matters more than being right, more than being liked, more than winning. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And it's not just about other people. Sometimes the drama lives entirely in your own head. It's the inner dialogue that never rests, worrying about what could go wrong, replaying the past, imagining conversations that never happened. Choosing peace means learning to step out of that loop. It means saying, I don't need to think about this right now, and letting it go. Peace begins with awareness. The moment you feel tension rising, ask yourself, what's pulling me out of peace right now? Is it worth it? That pause, that moment of reflection, is your doorway back to calm. You can take a deep breath, step back, and choose not to feed the fire. You don't owe anyone your reaction. You don't have to defend yourself against every criticism. You don't have to fight every battle. Sometimes walking away or staying silent is the most powerful thing you can do, because peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It takes strength to stay calm when everything around you is trying to provoke you. As you start practicing this, you'll notice something shift. Your energy will become lighter. You'll stop feeling drained after every conversation. You'll start attracting people who bring calm instead of chaos. That's what happens when you protect your peace. You start living from it. It's important to remember, choosing peace doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It means facing things with clarity instead of chaos. It means responding from wisdom instead of emotion. It means deciding that your inner peace is worth more than temporary satisfaction. So the next time someone tries to pull you into drama, whether it's an argument, a rumor, or even your own spiraling thoughts, pause, breathe, and tell yourself, I choose peace over drama. Say it until it becomes instinct. Say it until your nervous system starts to relax just by hearing the words. Say it until peace becomes your default setting, not your last resort. Because peace is not something you find once and keep forever. It's something you choose. Every day in every situation, big or small. And every time you choose it, you reclaim a little more of your power, a little more of your clarity, a little more of yourself. You deserve a calm life. You deserve conversations that don't drain you, mornings that don't start with chaos, and relationships that feel safe, not dramatic. You deserve a mind that's quiet enough to hear your own truth. So keep choosing peace, again and again, because every time you do, you remind the world, and yourself, that your serenity is sacred, and you refuse to trade it for anything less. 9. I am proud of who I am becoming. We spend so much of our lives chasing versions of ourselves we haven't reached yet. The person with more discipline, more confidence, more success, more peace. We look ahead and think, when I get there, then I'll be proud. But growth doesn't happen in a single leap. It happens in quiet, unseen steps. You don't become a better person overnight. You become through every small decision, every act of effort, every moment you choose to try again. Saying, I'm proud of who I'm becoming, is a way to acknowledge that process. It's a way to honor the journey instead of waiting for the destination. It's you recognizing that even if you're not where you want to be yet, you're moving, and that movement matters. Most people are so used to judging themselves by their progress that they forget to recognize their persistence. You might still make mistakes. You might still fall into old habits. You might still doubt yourself sometimes, but you're also healing, learning, and doing your best to grow. That deserves recognition. Think about who you used to be a few years ago. The things you tolerated, the way you talked to yourself, the boundaries you didn't have, the pain you hadn't yet faced. Compare that person to who you are now. You may not be perfect, but you're stronger, wiser, more self-aware. You've survived things that would have broken the old you. You've made choices that took courage. You've shown up even when it was uncomfortable. That's progress worth being proud of. I'm proud of who I'm becoming is also a way of breaking the habit of self-criticism. When you're always focused on what's wrong with you, you never give yourself permission to feel good about what's right. You fixate on your flaws instead of your growth. You measure yourself by what's missing instead of how far you've come. But pride, the healthy kind, fuels change. It reminds you that you're capable. It tells your mind, I'm not failing, I'm growing. This isn't about pretending you've arrived or denying your imperfections. It's about acknowledging your evolution. It's about saying, I might not be where I want to be yet, but I'm closer than I was yesterday. That's what matters. Growth doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to argue, walking away from what's unhealthy, or simply being kinder to yourself than you were last week. You're allowed to be proud of small things, the morning you didn't give up, the day you faced a fear, the time you spoke up when it would have been easier to stay silent. Pride doesn't have to wait for perfection. You can be proud now even as you continue to improve. The truth is, most of us grew up thinking pride was something to avoid, that it meant arrogance or self-importance. But there's a difference between ego and self-respect. Ego says, I'm better than others. Pride says, I'm better than I used to be. One separates you from people, the other connects you to yourself. You need that connection. Without it, you'll always feel like you're falling short. When you tell yourself, I'm proud of who I'm becoming, you start to build self-trust. You begin to see yourself as someone who's worth rooting for. You stop relying so much on external validation, because your sense of worth starts coming from within. That's what real confidence is. Not pretending you have it all together, but knowing that even when you don't, you're still on your way. This kind of pride is deeply healing, especially if you've lived most of your life feeling not enough. Maybe you grew up around criticism. Maybe you've been compared to others so often that you can't help comparing yourself now. Maybe you've internalized the idea that you always have to be doing more, giving more, achieving more to matter. But the truth is, you've been doing the best you can with what you have. And that deserves acknowledgement, not shame. When you start saying, "I'm proud of who I'm becoming," you soften the voice in your head that says you'll never be enough. You start replacing guilt with gratitude. You begin to see that your growth isn't linear. It's messy, human, and full of lessons. Sometimes you'll take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. But that's still progress. The point isn't perfection, it's direction. You're becoming someone who's more patient, more mindful, more authentic. You're learning to let go of what doesn't serve you and to hold on to what does. You're discovering how to speak to yourself with kindness, how to love yourself without conditions. That's not small, that's transformation, even if it's happening quietly, even if no one else sees it yet. Be proud of the way you've kept your heart open, despite the times it's been hurt. Be proud of the way you've learned to forgive, to start over, to try again. Be proud of the way you've learned to set boundaries, to say no, to protect your peace. Be proud of the moments you wanted to give up, but didn't. You don't need anyone else's approval to feel proud. You don't need to wait for a big milestone or a perfect moment. You just need to pause, look at who you're becoming, and acknowledge the effort it took to get here. That's the foundation of lasting self-respect, recognizing your own growth, even when no one's applauding it. So take a deep breath and say it, "I'm proud of who I'm becoming." Say it when you feel strong, and say it when you don't. Say it on the good days and the bad ones. Say it until your mind starts believing it, because it's true. You're not who you used to be. You're learning, healing, growing, and evolving. You're still a work in progress, but that progress is beautiful. You've come a long way, and you're still moving forward. You may not have everything figured out yet, but you're becoming someone wiser, kinder, and stronger with every passing day. And that's something to be proud of. Not someday, but right now. If you've made it this far, take a breath. A long, deep, quiet breath, and let this truth sink in. You've just spent time doing something that most people never do. You've learned to listen to the way you speak to yourself. You've started to rewrite the inner dialogue that shapes your entire life. That's not small work. That's the beginning of transformation. The way you talk to yourself determines the way you experience the world. It affects how you wake up in the morning, how you face your fears, how you recover from mistakes, and how you treat others. Every word you whisper inside your mind becomes a seed, and whatever you plant there grows. You can plant fear, or you can plant faith. You can feed self-doubt, or you can nurture self-respect. You can live reacting to life, or you can live guiding it from within. You've learned 9 ways to start changing that inner language. 9 ways to remind yourself of your strength, your worth, and your growth. These aren't slogans to repeat once and forget. They're tools, small, powerful reminders to use when life gets heavy, when you start doubting yourself, or when the old habits of self-criticism return. When things fall apart, say, "I can handle this." When you mess up, whisper, "I'm learning, not failing." When the world feels chaotic, remind yourself, "I choose peace over drama." When you forget your value, repeat, "I deserve good things." And when you feel lost, come back to the simple truth, "I'm proud of who I'm becoming." These words are your anchor. They won't change life overnight, but they'll change how you move through it. Over time, they'll become your default voice, softer, steadier, kinder. And when that happens, you'll notice something extraordinary. The world outside starts to reflect the peace you've built inside. So as you close this chapter, remember, your relationship with yourself is the most important one you'll ever have. Protect it. Speak gently to it. Be patient with it. The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you live your life. And if you ever forget how far you come back to this. You are growing, even when you don't see it. You are healing, even when it feels slow. You are becoming, even when it feels uncertain. And you are worthy, always, of good things, peace, and love. So keep talking to yourself like someone you care about. Keep choosing words that strengthen, not shatter. Keep showing up for your own heart. Because one day you'll look back and realize, it wasn't luck, it wasn't magic, it was the quiet power of how you learned to speak to yourself. And that changed everything.